thing we showed. We're just gonna jump in. All right. So we are here for another impromptu. I've got my sidekick, Pastor Norman, from
Hello, everybody.
and he's in South Carolina, and I'm in North Carolina, for those of you who don't know. And we were just discussing something that I had been dealing with and how that it is what makes you different from everybody else that causes you to be able to have what dad would call an attractive factor or a hook to fulfill your purpose. And
Mhm.
so in talking about that, we've had a good conversation, but already we should have had been recording it. And hello, Linda Langdon, she's here.
Linda,
And
Linda.
Linda Langdon is our fan. She's a fan,
Hmm.
a super fan.
That
uh,
she is.
she is our super fan. Thank you, Linda, for tuning in, sweetheart. Last night, Dad and I had to take baby girl to the dog ER. She got to coughing a little bit. I'm saying this for Linda's sake because she always concerned about baby girl. But baby girl got to coughing last night, and she's been doing this weird thing for months now about lip licking her lips, and
Mhm.
then gulping and swallowing and all of that stuff, and coughing a little bit. And so they've been kind of treating it with reflux as reflux, but last night she just got to coughing and coughing and coughing, and so we had to take her to the ER. And when we did, we got there, and the good thing about it was there was hardly anybody there. For what last time we had to go, we had to wait about 4 hours. This time we went right in, and they got to it right away. Ended up they didn't do X-rays and stuff because they said it would be very expensive, and she's got an appointment tomorrow with the vet anyway. So they said it would be cheaper if they did it that way. But they gave her something with this hydrocodone. It's got cough medicine and pain medicine combined. So she's kind of loopy today. She slept good last night, and today she's just kind of out of it and wants to sleep. Come over here, Pooh. Come on over here. Lay down, baby. Lay down. So anyway, if I have to jump up, it's because of that. I just want to let you guys know, baby girl. She'll be all right. She's just kind of sleepy and groggy today. Come on in the house.
Okay. Hello out there.
Well, what's up, Dad?
Everything's up.
So again, and after good afternoon, Sandra. And but again, it's what makes you distinguishable, like you said earlier. It is what makes you distinguishable that actually causes your purpose to be fulfilled. And
Mhm.
just when I was about to, like I said, just when I was about to say we need to cut back and not do so many live streams. Maybe they're not as effective. And when I start to do those emails out reminding people, some come back and say, "I want my name removed from your list," and it's just kind of like, okay, it just works on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
so I had this feeling like, okay, maybe Dad and I just aren't getting out there, doing what we need to do, aren't making a dent, not
Mhm.
effective. And so I'm thinking, okay, back down, just let it go. Don't do a whole lot, and maybe do less online. But then the minute I did that, said that in myself, thinking that's what we were gonna do, we get an email inviting us to another Pure Presence conference that's worldwide to speak.
Mhm.
And so it's like I said, every time we do anything to promote, it's like it does has the opposite effect for us. And you were saying how that last time you did that spontaneous move of having a live stream at a different time, you got all of those viewers.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I understand again having that marketing background. Back in the day, and I'll say old school for the sake of understanding, that was one of the things that we would do with that particular generation. We would promote. They were more like, yeah, I need to know, so to speak, with the promotions, advertisements, so forth. They want the flyers, all these different things. Whereas now we're dealing with a generation, they're not so much caught up on that. And it's because of we dealing with a generation that deals with social media. And so you even think to do promotions and stuff on that. But as if you notice, like on Facebook, you have this thing called the Reel, REEL, which is just a short, spontaneous move that you make concerning a certain topic. And those actually do a whole lot better than a normal, long broadcast or whatever. And it's because that's what we deal with a generation. They want to see something very quick,
Yeah.
inspirational, and then they gone. They're constantly moving
Yes.
and
Yes.
so forth. So
Yes.
yeah, being spontaneous is more effective than something that you actually would normally plan out. So it's funny, like I was sharing with mom before we got on the broadcast, that is kind of a shift that has happened to me. Back in the day, I was very calculated. I was considered what you call a perfectionist. Um, Even with ministry, there were certain things that I had to be this way, or I would be literally upset or emotional. And now I'm pretty much laid back, very adventurous, and I'm very spontaneous. And so it's a different, and like your word, distinct, that I'm making adjustment to, but I'm enjoying it. I
Yeah.
mean, I really feel like I'm living a life. And so when you're spontaneous, it's a joyful act.
Yes. Yes. I like what Linda's saying. She's saying our conditioning goes against God is supply, and we don't have to try. And that's true. And Dad has always been kind of like that. He's very fluid in the way he lives life. Sometimes it'll bug the person, like you said, that's got to have everything kind of lined up. But he's always lived that way, and it doesn't bother him. He can fly by the seat of his pants, and it doesn't bother him at all. Uh, Not everybody can do that unless they come to a place of full surrender. And I think that's probably what's happening to me. I'm still coming to a place of full surrender. Uh, and I know I've surrendered in a lot of areas, but in that one area, it's been hard for us to really accept that what we're doing is effective. And it's not that we want people to constantly validate or pat us on the back, but it's really been hard to measure or gauge whether or not it's been effective because we don't see a lot of the results.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that has been what's weighing on my mind a whole lot. And I think on yours too. Yeah, it's been weighing on our minds a lot more because we don't see the results of what we're doing. Um, but we know that we know the value of what we have,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not sure everybody else sees the value of what we have, and that weighs on you after a while.
Mm-hmm.
But and again, it goes back to what you were saying. It's learning to live from that spontaneity and trusting that intuitive response.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Say it again, Ma. I love that. They
And
need to write that.
yeah, learning to live from spontaneity and trusting that intuitive response.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to admit that I am not the most I wouldn't say I'm the most intuitive person, even though I am. I tend my left brain tends to lead, and I have to guard against that a lot of times. Because I can micromanage all day long if I follow my brain, my mind. So I'm still having to surrender from doing things the way I'm comfortable in doing things. This is stretching me to trust that what we do is effective without having evidence,
Mm-hmm.
and that may be my ego that wants the evidence, and I thought about that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like when you said that, because as you were saying that, one of the things that I've been practicing here, and like I said, I went through a lot. I evolved in the midst of the pandemic. I'll just
You did, you really did. It helped you a lot.
that's an amazing thing. I mean, as busy as I was in ministry, and that happened, and now I'm like, I discovered a guy that I did not know all this time, which is a true me. But
Yeah, yeah.
I've learned how to get out of my head.
You
Uh,
have, you
I,
have.
I was one again, very calculated, a thinker. I mean, I my mind would be on everything. And here recently, I've really just gotten out of my head. And again, it's because I've been delivered again from the confinement of people perceptions of me as a spiritual leader.
Yeah.
You know, I'm Dr. Norman Armstrong, Bishop Norman Armstrong, Apostle Norman, the prophet, and they have a certain perception of people that wear those hats. All
Yes,
right, because I
yes,
don't want to use
yes,
titles, but wear
yes.
those hats or function as such, not realizing that every person have many different sides. Like for
Mhm.
example, you know, being called into ministry, I thought that was the only thing that was my purpose. See, we all think that we just have one purpose, but we can have multiple.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things that has happened with me, and I've shared it with you guys before. I mean, when I was younger, I was very athletic, and I
Mhm.
was always into something with sports and stuff, and I loved it. Actually, that was my plan. I didn't want to be no preacher. I wanted to play football,
Mm.
and of course, I wrestled in college, and then I got into the weightlifting. And then when I got to pastoring, I got away from it. I
Okay.
used to even coach little league football.
Mhm.
And when we started the church, I got away from it, and that was my main focus. But again, I wasn't as happy or joyful until again in the midst of this pandemic, I went after
Yeah,
something that I used to love. And so
yeah.
it's never too late to go back and live out. So I just got the information on yesterday concerning, you know, the course that I'm gonna start taking to become a certified personal trainer, because now being at the gym, I'm getting a lot of people coming up to me for two reasons. They're watching me, they see I know what I'm doing, and so now they want me to help them out. Then there's some people that have been watching the broadcast that I'm
Mhm.
not aware of, and they're
Mhm.
walking to me, "You Apostle Armstrong, are you not?" Yes, and stuff. And so it's been
Mhm.
even in the gym
Yeah,
and stuff. And so I'm enjoying it. I am actually enjoying that more than what I used to do, being on the
yeah,
stage and
yeah, yeah.
preaching the
Yeah, yeah, and it's good because the pandemic ran you into your authenticity. It
people.
ran you into it and forced you, and I think it did that for a lot of people. Some I think it worked had the opposite effect, but for a lot of us, it was a good thing. It was a really
Mhm.
good thing. And Linda's coming back at us now. She said, I know I seem like a spiritual stalker, but you're here because you are supposed to be. We will not always know who we serve in hell. That's true. And I understand that. She said, there is freedom in letting your mind hang loose, whatever it takes on new meaning. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
And like I said, that's good at that. He can let his mind hang loose. I am, on the other hand, have not been that fluid, and I'm learning to be that fluid. It doesn't come naturally to me as my person, but when
Mhm.
I'm outside of my person and I'm not my person, it I have no problem with it.
Mhm.
And I understand the mind. I understand the molestation of the mind. I
Mhm.
understand the harassment of the mind. I understand how that the mind will build a picture and build a and predict. It will do all of that. So I'm aware of it. It's just that it still hangs out here once in a while. And so it's good to have conversations like this because I know I'm not the only one that's dealing with that.
No.
Not the only one dealing with that. And it's good to say sometimes that everything's not always okay. It's not always okay. How do
Mhm.
you work through those times when it's not okay? Like we had when we took baby girl to ER last night. We were you should have seen us when we got home. You would have laughed at us. Baby girl couldn't go up the steps because she was still loopy.
Oh,
So
wow.
we tried to get baby girl up the steps. Can you imagine? Now, Dad's already having trouble getting up the steps himself with his back and his hip. And I have no strength to pick her up. So here we are trying to get baby girl up the steps. And baby girl's not moved. She's not helping us hardly at all. If anything, she's resisting. And so because she said, y'all gonna kill me, y'all gonna kill me. So we got upstairs and both of us were leaning on the bed like
No, that would have been a good scene to a reality show.
I said, I'm never doing that again. And she'll just have to stay downstairs. I'll never do that again. It was so funny. But our lives are so comical. They're just really comical. Dad, what you gonna talk about today?
No, I'm just listening.
I know we're just running our gap. And I wanted, and go ahead, Pastor Norman. You had something.
I think a major incident that happened with me, and we've talked about it before, but going back to something Dad has said a couple of weeks ago, when he mentioned about when I lost the building that we were in. And I made the statement. I mean, spontaneously, I said,
Yeah.
"No, I lose
You didn't
nothing.
lose it. Mhm,
I lose
mhm,
nothing."
mhm.
And the reason why is because I know if I was still yet confined to that condition identity that I developed throughout the years, I
Mhm.
would have been literally upset. I would have been
Yes,
angry. I
you
would have livid. I mean, very emotional. And I really surprised myself that I wasn't as emotional as I thought I would have been,
would. Mhm.
to the point that that ego mind began to question my spirituality as if I wanted to walk away from
Yeah.
pastoring or anything like that. And that was not the case. I realized that I was in bondage because of the stress that I kept
Yeah.
putting on
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
trying to fit an image that the world has came up with concerning preachers. And so one of the things that's happening now, as I and Dad and I told Mom this Sunday, we had an amazing service on Sunday. More people are coming, but the newer people that's starting to show up is because I've made the decision not to fit that mold, not to go back to that image. I am just being free. And I think that's what we're dealing with a generation when we talk about being transparent. We got to be spontaneous. We got to be real. We're dealing with a generation that can tell if you're being your true self or not. That's exactly what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a generation that, oh no, you putting on a front. That's not how you are. But I've been just literally myself, very transparent, very open. And that has seemed to be something that has really attracted the people to come and see what we're really all about.
Last night while we were at the the doctor's office with the dog, there was a lady and her husband was with us. Wasn't that many people there,
Mhm.
but when I looked at him, it's like I knew who his twin was. And I asked him, I said, when I told him, I said, you look like somebody in your family, real strong. And it looked like it's his mama.
Mhm.
And he said, father, mother. And then I began to minister to her and her position and job and both of them. And I said that the Spirit showed me years ago who I would see on this side before crossing over completely. Um, and the deja vu would get stronger, even stronger than I ever have. So I don't wrestle with uh, not ever going to see you again, but the knower is working so gracefully. It's not an effort.
Mhm.
If there is an effort, I have to not talk to people. It's it's not seeing who's doing the talking. As you get over into this, you will want to. The you I'm saying is spirit. You would want to do everything possible to make people know that Christ is more real than the ego or the mind or feeling or this body.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I want to say words that I can't find to describe the indescribable God identity. Now, when I said that, I felt I sensed the awareness of that come. But the second coming of Jesus is going to be totally different than what we've heard in religion and spirituality for each one of us.
Mhm.
What is so amazing that us, appeared to everybody in a different form, and yet that form is him.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
and I often tell you can't miss God because he is the place where all of us
Mhm.
came from being already one with him.
Mm-hmm.
He prayed that prayer that there may be one
Mhm.
as we are.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And and
Exactly.
and and I tell you something else. The craving or the lust of the spirit to see him, be him, and it will relieve itself. Let me share this with you. It will relieve itself by making you or himself aware that everything that happened before we quote and quote got saved and found out who we were, it's all used as kindling
Mhm.
to bank a fire that will never cease to reveal to us how to okay, here come how to talk to God inside these bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Tell your truth, the truth that you are one with him.
Mhm.
You don't even have to call this, use the phrase God, one with God, or one with the Father. You just say you go in the attitude where, like most of us want to get God, or people to see God in us. In the end of this thing, you won't want people to see God in you.
That won't be anything in the mind at all.
Mm-mm.
Right. I was reading over. I read this before on our site. I think probably on the impromptu. I want to read it again if it's okay with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
What we wrote about the indissoluble union.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Okay, and I'll try to read it quickly. But I think what you're saying now and what we're hoping to put out there for people to grasp is that there is an indissoluble union.
And the absolute, I don't know. I'm trying to say this. I never thought I'd hear myself say everybody in this dimension and others, you already saved,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but you got to put
Mm-hmm.
your attention on
Mm-hmm.
the eternal essence
Mm-hmm.
to say what I just said. I'm not saying it because I'm trying to make people mad or that I found a revelation in the Bible or some kind of hearing. I'm telling people this when I talk online that this is a personal thing that was revealed to me and it
Yeah.
will be revealed to others.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I had something. I am when I was upstairs asleep, I remember telling a group of people uh, that they were going to heaven and that you'll be there. And I'm gonna be honest with you. When hell empty itself, meaning when the ego mind is completely rendered helpless because it is a servant of God
Mm-hmm.
and not a distractor of
Mm-hmm.
God,
Mm-hmm.
everything will reverse
Mm-hmm.
itself,
Mm-hmm.
turn inside out like a
Yep.
pocket,
Yep.
like you're putting your hand
Yep.
in a pocket and reversing it. And effortless grace,
Yes.
effortless grace is not greasy,
That's true.
but effortless grace cause the oil of gladness to
Mhm.
explode in awareness of God, to be seen by who cannot be seen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I see him, but I see him.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel him and why I do, but I know he's real.
Yeah.
He's
Mm-hmm.
real in my soul.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yes, God is real.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
He has
Stop recording.
made
Let me
me
stop recording.
whole. His love for me is like pure gold. Okay, okay. Yes,
Okay.
God is
I,
real.
I just want to know when the CD coming out. That's all.
Oh Lord.
We're gonna go to America's Got Talent.
Oh Lord have mercy.
Oh yeah. Now that,
I think
We're
baby
gonna,
girl, if we do that, baby girl gonna have to get her job and take care of us like we did her.
we're
that's
gonna go
probably,
on
that's probably gonna
America's
be one
Got.
of the highest ratings they ever had.
Look, let me read this right quick. This is we wrote this years ago. We kind of put it together, but it's called The Indissoluble Union.
Mhm.
Our subtitle is The Consummation of the Divine Merger.
Mhm.
For too long, man has believed God to be a separate entity from himself. He makes appeals to a God who is distant, in which he must convince that he is worthy of an audience with such deity. Getting God's attention has been the ultimate quest. When we believe that God is separate from our humanity, our prayers become nothing more than panic stricken supplications directed to a remote God in hopes that he will intervene, deliver us from adversity. God cannot be an impersonal supreme being who keeps himself separate from man, for then we shall never know what love really is. What does it mean to love? To love is to esteem another high in value, to protect and preserve from harm, to seek to please the other, to place another's happiness and well being before your own. The object of love is to ultimately become one with another, inseparable. The Bible tells us that God not only loves, but is the essence of love. He is the desire to be one with another. Therefore, because He loves us, all of His actions are motivated by the insatiable desire to be one with His creation. He has purpose to be in man, experiencing life by man. Our life becomes His and His ours. As He lives, we live. In union with God, we never look for Him outside of ourselves once we realize we are one with Him. The truth is that He, as Christ, is in us as the one asking, as the one seeking, and the one finding. Jesus said, "He that hath seen me hath seen the Father." Jesus was the express image of the Father. Because we are sons, we are also the express image of God our Father. He whom we seek is within us. Galatians 2:20 says, "I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me." A deeper understanding may be obtained if one would study the place where Jesus was crucified. The place called Golgotha, where Jesus died, was known as the place of the skull. Esoterically, this can be compared to the splitting of man's mind into the conscious and subconscious levels. The subconscious, like the female, is subjective in nature, while the conscious mind, like the male, is objective. When man awakens spiritually, the conscious and subconscious marry, becoming the mind of Christ. Symbolically, the brain of man separated into two distinct hemispheres, just as the veil was split in two in the temple when Christ experienced death. Subsequently, the female subjective mind, which is the subconscious, is the womb whereby Christ is born anew. It is necessary to have a fixed consciousness of who the I, consciousness, is. In order to become fixed, the Holy Spirit must lead you through the death of the consciousness of self and awaken to the awareness of being the I am. When God created this earth and all that is in it, he rested from his labors and took a permanent sabbatical. He laid himself down within man to sleep. He slept and dreamed a dream that he was man. When he awoke, man realized his godhood. Man is God asleep. God is man awake. The Apostle Paul preached the mystery of Christ in us, the hope of glory.
Mhm.
Although the mystery is prevalent throughout the scriptures, many scholars refuse to acknowledge the truth of its existence. Erroneously, believers are being taught to depend on someone outside themselves. Nevertheless, God is not some other outside myself in another place. Refusal to walk in this union awareness forces us into divisiveness and otherness. Many who claim to know God still walk in separateness and remain independent from the God who is in them. They believe that there is a separate and independent self. This is the birth of dis-ease. This is sin, for we are missing the mark. Our thinking must change. We must be delivered from the thoughts of being only human. Division is not from God, but is a byproduct of man's erroneous subconscious belief that we are all separate and that we are separate from God Himself. The one and only reality is that God is who I am. The alignment of self with the Spirit of God frees us of egocentricity, self consciousness, and the pain of self contradiction. Jesus said, "He that believes on me, the works that I do shall he do also." Become the healing Jesus. Step into the world of Jesus through your imagination. Give up being yourself as human and think yourself into the Jesus being, Jesus doing, and having state.
Mhm.
Y'all wrote that?
Yeah.
So I have one question. Where's the book?
I want to work on it. I really do want to
Uh,
work on it.
that is so insightful. That right there should be in a book. Right there. Wow.
What if I told you that God was so obsessed that he had to take on the form of us in order to satisfy the obsessional, the he is something that I want to say, like he was so obsessed with it
Mhm.
that he was willing, we were willing to allow ourselves to come here to die many times, looking at itself inside of people who was caught up in the lie that no man can get to heaven without being born again. That is not true. I don't
In
care.
a
I don't care.
religious
In a
sense.
religious sense, that
Yes.
is not true.
In the religious sense, yeah.
And the reason why I say that is that everybody, essence, the real self, with or without knowledge of Jesus, came from the Father and shall return unto him. No devil, no, I don't care how many philosophers, they can come here with gasoline underwear on and light them up. God will put the fire out every time they feel like they got a corner on him through salvation. Salvation does not start and begin with our ugly bump agreement. Okay, I had to go bump because I got about to get something
Yeah,
out.
you had to bleep or bump some
Yeah,
things.
the big bump. I told somebody come up to me, and I tell them at Bojangles, I said, somebody come up to me, told me to kiss where the sun don't shine.
Mhm.
I said, well, if it's that good, you ought to sell it.
Oh my God.
And I said, I tell him, I said, go on down there on the block of Skid Row and pull your britches leg up. Maybe you make some money. But I don't think you'll get no money with that. The only thing I'm trying to say to you guys is that there will come a crossroad in every direction for everybody in the end. And what Carlton Pearson was talking about, it is true. What the rest of them was talking about, it's true. It's time for us to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the truth that you know who it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, in culture, and you mentioned culture person who dealt with that even at a different level. He was what we call with the big dogs and so
Mhm.
forth. And it was obvious that if he would share with us and be transparent, he was also trying to fit into the conditioning of religion to fit in. And see, that's what's matter of fact, he said that to me when I ran into him a couple of years ago when I started talking. He looked at me and said, now, you ain't supposed to know all of that like that, right? And he shared with me at that moment, he said, there are a lot of pastors and leaders that he have talked to that know the truth,
Yeah.
but they would not share it because it would have such an effect on their ministry and especially their finances.
Yes, I remember I told Dad about this years and years ago when we were in our larger facility. La, Missy, Latanya, and I went to Florida for a conference with Bishop Harold Ray. It was an economic conference for churches, and we got there, and on the panel was Mac Timberlake, who was a minister here in North Carolina. He and his wife, and Carlton Pearson was also on that panel. Carlton had to speak that one night when we were there, and he made one statement, and he was still at that time in his church, Higher Dimensions, and
Mhm.
going through, I think, about to go through the chaos that actually caused him to actually leave that ministry. But he made a statement, and when he made the statement, you could hear a pin drop. You could hear, as Dad says, a rat pee on cotton. He said, every man is saved, they just don't know it.
That's right. That's sleep. They wake it
Man,
up.
everybody in there went, it was like a hush.
Yeah.
It was just a hush. Because here is a pastor saying, a pastor who has also ministered deliverance
Mhm.
to other people, who has brought people into salvation, born again experiences, who has a tremendous ministry, set up the whole Azusa Street ministry, and have attracted thousands and has all of this clout. And he says, every man is saved, they just don't know it. And that you could tell that the a wave went over the whole room, but particularly over the minds of the preachers who were sitting on that platform.
Mhm.
Go to the grocery store. Go to the grocery store and watch this. When you walk up to the checkout, you may not see it unless you have experienced the great the great divide. You won't see it unless attention has been gotten of in awareness of who this is. They will ask you at the counter, checkout, plastic or paper. You might say plastic, you might say paper. Now I'm gonna reverse it around. Watch this. I'm gonna say it in first person if I can. Jesus is the checkout person, and he asked himself, did you find everything you were looking for? Christ. Christ says back to him in the store, yes. Or Christ would say, I was in that aisle down there and I went to pick up something. Can you hold it for a minute till I go back? He's talking to himself. Now I'm telling you, I'm experiencing this right now as I talk to you.
Mhm.
Do we need to get someone to help you carry your groceries out? He's asking himself, do me, need to get some assistance? You go in the store. Oh, I'm sorry. Jesus goes to shopping and he looks on shelves, passing himself in the form of other people.
And
Oh,
this
this is something.
and you're right. And I
Mm.
think what blinds us to not being able to see that is apparent is the fact that we have this concept or misconception that when Christ appears, it's got to be some very loving, lofty, idealistic thing that he's doing. And it doesn't have to be, it's in our regular day-to-day activities that Christ is appearing.
There's a butcher.
You said that. Go ahead, Dad.
There's a butcher in the Circle store. When I go into the back of the store and I look for that, was it Wagyu, that steak?
Yeah.
Or Wagyu.
Yeah, Wagyu. He comes up every time and asks me, can he help me? And I told him the last time, I said, no. I said, I'm just looking right now. I haven't decided yet. Now, here's what I saw myself do. I went to the manager of that store and I told her, I want you to go with me. There's a man out here that I want to ask you about, and I want to talk to him in your presence and mine. I want to tell the manager that this man, as the butcher in the meat department, has served well in grace of beingness, that Jesus and this man constantly asked me, do I want anything? Oh, God, I saw it. And I'm going to tell her, I said, this man has done well in the way his bedside manners and his manners in this department. I'm asking you to look at this man and see that you hired quality. He deserves a raise. And you know, I'm going to tell you the truth. This thing that I'm talking about now is, it's no struggle with this. If I look, I was in the spirit world and we was on a trip. It was 6 of us in the car. I was in the back seat in the middle. Lord Jesus. Yes. I looked over to my left and that was Jesus sitting in the car riding with us. I saw him. I was looking at him, talking to him, riding in the back seat. She was up in the front, everybody. And somebody said, think we need to stop and refuel. Well, we stopped and it was kind of like the service station there, the restaurant in it. And I said to Jesus, I said, we're going to stop and get some gas. He agreed with it and he stepped outside. And when I got ready to go in, to take care of business in there, I asked him, I said, are you going in with us? I said, you rode this distance with us and you sat right there beside me. He said, no. He said, I'm not going to ride any further with you this way. But he said, you get in the car, I will ride with you in another way. So it appeared in the car that the space that Jesus was taking up was empty. But because he told me and showed me by experience that he rides in the car with us, I saw Jesus. I saw him as a passenger with us in the car. And I talked to him and communicated with him. And he rode with us for so many miles and gave us in the car the personal experience of seeing him in the flesh.
Now I have a question to ask you, Dad, and this is dealing with that experience. But to enlighten others. Now you saw Jesus in the car with you, right? How would you identify that was Jesus? Did he have, in essence, the description? Did he have what we perceive as the long hair? Did he have a robe? Because during this time, y'all in a car. Back then, according to the Jesus Christ biblical days, he wouldn't been riding in no car. So how was you able to identify that was him? Because within my understanding, he did not look like what we perceived.
Yeah, I hear you.
But you knew that was him.
The key word you said knew. The next word is this. Remember on the Emmaus Road, as he walked with the disciples, he appeared to them as a stranger. All right, now watch this. I want to answer that for you. In the car, he had that fine linen robe that I've always seen. I have seen Jesus in my pulpit, standing beside me, coming in the door at the same time, and sit down beside me. Okay, here it is. This is the punch. This is it. He appears to me the way I can handle him in the condition self. He will appear to many others. The man that I listened to this week, who he's been on gospel shows on television, he saw the book room and the heart of Jesus, and like I have, but he went to heaven to see it. I stayed on earth and saw the same thing. That was what he needed.
Mhm.
Jesus appeared in the car in a way that we could handle him. I've seen Jesus in a black suit stand at the steps of a podium and show me he was dressed in a suit and his robe at the same time.
Now, this that you guys are touching on is the same thing that Rumi the poet said when he said, "God is veiled by his own appearing."
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is amazing. And the reason why, Dad, I wanted to ask you that question is because I made an announcement to the people for the past 2 weeks that this year they need to prepare themselves. Again, we're talking about this is the year to expect the unexpected. Well, I've been sharing with them to prepare themselves for divine visitations from God and from angels.
Mhm.
And so they will have to be open
Yeah,
that
that's
what they see may not look like what
yes,
was been taught,
yes.
but
You
there got to be an
yes.
awareness in them that they will be able to identify this is him.
You remember that same scripture that Dad just used about the Emmaus Road, where Jesus was walking on the Emmaus Road with the disciples, but he appeared to them as a stranger. So he didn't have the same appearance. He didn't have the same features after resurrection, if the story is true, that they did not recognize him as that same Jesus that they knew. So it says also that their eyes were holden. So what does it mean to have your eyes holden? It means you're looking, but you're not seeing.
Exactly.
And I use this example all the time. We have a house full of books. You've been here, you've seen it. We've got books everywhere. Every now and then we'll have an intuitive response, intuitive arising to say, I want to look at this particular book. But we don't remember exactly where it is. But we remember what it looks like. And so what happens is, what you doing, babe?
Yeah, I think she wanted to go in the house. Okay.
Well, go ahead and take her.
Okay, I'm okay. Go ahead, keep going.
So what happens when we're looking for that book, because we know what it looks like, we look for that particular appearance. And then we look and we look and we look because we got a whole lot of books. Sometimes we find it, sometimes we don't. The majority of the time that we don't find it is because it looks different than what we have seen in our minds.
Yes, that's good.
That's what it means to have your eyes holden. You already have a preconceived idea of what it's going to look like.
Exactly.
But the knowing, and that's what you and Dad were referring to, he knew him. Every man and woman and child knows him when they see him. Exactly. Everyone, they know him. It's a knowing that goes beyond appearances. It goes back to what you said before. It was an intimacy that you don't even realize is there. It's such an intimacy that when the appearance happens, when it takes place, you automatically know. And then scriptures tell us, my sheep know my voice.
Exactly. And so I wonder now how many people have actually had encounters with him, but religion caused them to have a veil to not be able to perceive that was him.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard the old adage. Some of Linda probably has heard it before. A lot. They told a story about the man who invited God appeared to him and said, "I'm going to come to you." Or he was praying and God spoke to him and said, "I'm going to visit you tomorrow at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, whatever time it
Mhm.
was." And the man said, "I'll prepare for you. I'll prepare." So the man, he put this whole dinner together, big extravagant dinner together, and had it all set out on the table, placed the table, set placements on the table, made it beautiful. And he waited and he waited, and 1 o'clock came, and he didn't see God. God didn't show up. And then this dog came up, jumped on the table and ate everything on the table and tore the table all to pieces. And so the man was very disappointed. He said, he went back and he prayed and said, "Why didn't you show up? I believed for you to come and I was expecting you. I had this big dinner for you." And God said to him, "I did show up. It was a great dinner."
Oh, oh Lord.
But God showed up as the dog.
Dog, he showed up
Mhm.
as the dog. And that is key right there. I mean, and we know this anyway from the whole story of Jesus. He did not, to the religious people, he did not show up what they were anticipating. They
Yes.
were looking
Yes.
for some great king on a white horse with a golden crown, with a
Mhm,
flaming sword,
mhm,
and he
mhm.
came as a baby in a manger.
Yes. So now God is appearing as us.
Exactly.
Every person, the butcher in the grocery store, the checkout clerk, all of
Mhm,
them, even when they're not being nice,
Mhm.
it's
mhm.
still God appearing, because he's appearing as that to bring something up out of us
Exactly.
that is
Exactly.
not Christ-like. So if I get disturbed by someone who's not lovable or loving in the store, then it's not that they're not being Christ. It's that at that moment, I'm expecting them to act a certain way because my ego wants that. And so I remember I was going in the bank one day and I held the door for a young person, for a person, and they didn't say thank you. And immediately my mind says, they didn't even think to say thank you for me holding the door open. And then I heard this thought come through me. It was a divine thought. It says, "Why did you hold the door open if all you wanted was somebody to pat you on the back?"
Wow. 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 That's good, Mom.
Love doesn't expect an exchange.
Right. Right.
I I wasn't supposed to hold the door open so they could say thank you.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I caught the ego. So that's why that person was rude, because they had to be rude to bring that up out of me.
Exactly. And so we are all going through all of these different learning processes
Mm-hmm.
so that
Mm-hmm.
the true self can transcend. Because just
Yeah.
from you saying
Yeah.
that right there, in it, I would have expected the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
A carnal identity. I just opened up the door for you and you didn't say thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not walking in the essence of love.
Mm-hmm.
Love has no conditions and
It has no
stipulations.
demands. It has no demands.
So anytime that I do something and I'm expecting a response, then guess what? I'm not walking in my authentic self.
If we do anything out of the ego,
Hmm.
hear me. If we do anything from the ego that appears to be loving, the ego will expect something in return.
Exactly.
If we tip the waitress $100 and she doesn't come back and say, "Oh, thank you," then the ego will get offended
Mhm.
Hmm.
because it did it to get a response from her.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. Now this is very insightful.
And a lot of people don't catch that sneaky, slimy thing.
That's
You
true.
know, they don't catch it. But I've come to realize that people are rude or whatever they are because that's to pull that thing up out of me.
Mm.
So to be honest, that thing is what we really should be calling
It's
Satan.
divine. It's divine.
Exactly.
It's
It,
divinely Satan. It's divinely Satan.
exactly. That's the part that needs to be crucified.
Yes, it is. And it is being, because
I heard that.
yeah, it is being crucified. Because when I opened that door for that person and they didn't say anything, and then I had the awareness that there was something here that wanted to be recognized, that was the crucifixion.
Mm, that's good.
That too, then.
Both of you guys did the
I
same
said,
thing.
you
That's,
said,
that's good. That's
That
good.
was the crucifixion. Light is what brings the crucifixion. And there's
Wow.
a scripture about that, Norman, in Hebrews, where it talks about it's light that exposes, cuts to the dividing asunder.
Son, exactly. I know where's that too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, and Linda says that's true. Self setting up situations to see self. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
That's
good.
exactly
That's good.
right. It's exactly what.
That's right. That'll bake your cake.
Yeah, and bake my cake plenty times.
Oh, look out there. Ooh, I told did I
My
told you?
cake, my
I
cake
hear
has been baked.
Uh-huh. I told you she's nasty. She's nasty.
My
She's
cake
nasty.
has been baked.
Look at
It has
you.
been baked.
You
But
bad. You
yeah,
bad.
it is light that exposes. It is light that.
you said light, but this says scripture for the
Okay,
word
go
of
ahead.
God is
Go ahead.
quick and powerful and
Yes.
sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to dividing asunder of soul and spirit and of joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts
Yeah.
and intents of the heart.
Now,
Oh my
the one I'm thinking, and that's I was lumping two scriptures together, because the one I'm thinking of is the light. It is light that makes manifest.
right.
Yes.
And then it's funny because verse 13 said, neither is there any creature that is not manifest in
Mhm.
his sight, but
Mhm.
all things are naked and open unto the eyes of him with whom he
Yeah.
hath to do. Wow.
Whatsoever does make manifest is light. So when
Exactly.
that light comes, that's the automatic crucifixion. Because you see yourself, you see it, you see that thing. And if you have a heart to want to live from, if you have the mind to want to live from your heart, the dedication, the determination to want to live from your heart, the minute that light shines on that thing, you let that go.
I just thought about something that Paul said. Work out your own soul salvation.
With fear and trembling.
Exactly. Because we're
Yeah.
so focused on everybody else and trying to shove, and I'm gonna say religion down their throat when you need the light to expose that part of you
Yeah.
that is really acting ugly.
And that part that is not you. That's the point. That part that is not you. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So to me, when we talk about being born again, that means to start all over again.
It is. It's like a beautiful steak that has a lot of fat on it, and you trimming the fat off. That's all it is. We still that beautiful steak, but we got all this fat.
Sound like you're talking about constant, eternal evolution.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
good, Dad.
Evolution.
It is.
We'll never stop evolving in consciousness.
I know.
Consciousness decided to take on the form of all that we're talking about. Each dot is dot, and each curve is straightened and bend for the next round. This is something that it is a place we came from, and it is a place that we're made out of. But yet, when you look at the two places, it becomes in oneness. It becomes a miracle of true identity. I hear people say, I don't believe in faking. I'm gonna be myself. I don't care what nobody say. I say you just told a lie then because you ain't find out who you are.
Exactly. That's good, Dad.
And if they had found out who they were when they said it, I don't know whether I would have picked up on it. I was walking down the hall one day up the Whitaker Park, and 3 or 4 people saying they talking, and they just used the slang Jesus. And I walked up by them. I said, "Yes, you talking to me?"
A lot of times when we say I want to be myself, what we're saying is I'm going to do whatever feels good to me, but not necessarily good for me.
Exactly. No, what they talking about being themselves is being that condition. My mama, daddy, birth certificate,
whatever feels good to me.
Yeah, because most of the time when I've heard people make that statement. It's out of a place of being emotional,
Yes.
a place of being
Yes.
angry.
Yes.
Pretty much,
Trying to
you
prove,
say
trying to prove something. Yes. Yes.
you want to rebel against something or
Mm-hmm.
someone. So most of
Hmm.
the time, when people say that, it's more of a negative
You know
statement.
where it's coming from.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
You know where it's coming from.
If a fish stay in water, he stands a chance of um, in doing anything in his domain. But when he gets out of it on land, he can't make it like that. We are being adapted to the environment of the heavenly spirit eternalness inside the water where we evolved came. That's why when we're inside the womb, we're in water
Yeah.
and we breathe
Yeah.
and exist.
Yeah.
Now, the obsessiveness is legal with or without the law. Grace has already said you don't have to try to be anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to try to be you because you just really done find out who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So lay low, stay in the middle of the
Yeah,
road, and
yeah.
tie everything down on the right and left side and keep it working.
And so now the evolution that you're
Mhm.
talking about has brought the three of us into a place of recognizing
Oh,
when something is being acted out here that is not us.
Exactly.
And the light has shined, we as that light has shown so bright till we recognize now when things are coming from this unit that are not us. And then what we do, we don't have to do anything, because when that light comes, we automatically separate from it. Automatically separate from it. Because I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that person that opens a door for another person and stand there expecting them to say something nice to me. I don't want to be that person who tips the waitress $100 just because I want to see her get excited and think I'm so great. I don't want to be that person.
So most things, and it's funny because I'm thinking about what Paul. Matter of fact, I want to read what he said, and this deal with the love and deal with what you just said in First Corinthians chapter 13. He says, "Though I speak with tongues of men and of angels, I have not charity. I become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing.
Nothing. Yes.
And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor,
Mm-hmm.
and though I give my body to be burned
Mm-hmm.
and have not charity, it profits me nothing." So
So,
all
yeah.
these other things that he was talking about doing, action, it was for recognition.
Yes. Yes. And that's what a lot of people have done, saying they're living and walking in love, but they're doing it for the wrong reasons. Now, Linda said this, and I like the way she said. She said, when you give expecting something in return, it becomes a bribe. True gifts are given in total freedom. Yes.
I
Now,
am asking. Oh, you finished?
no, not
Okay, go ahead.
quite. I
I'm
wanted
sorry.
to just acknowledge what Sandra said. She said that, wow, that sure does help to chip away all this stuff that holds us down as weight called the ego. Yes.
I like that. I
Yes,
like
I like
that.
that
Yes.
too. That is the weights too.
Mhm.
That's she's mentioning. We always talk about the sins and the weights that beset us. That is it. That is it.
2 times I can recollect, I asked Jesus inside of 2 people. One was Darrell Hines in Milwaukee, and the other one was my daddy. And I'm sitting beside him, riding in the car, going to see his mom and dad, my grandparents. I asked him before he died, "Can I sit on your lap?" You remember out there in the country? I did. I sat on his lap. That was a sign. And I didn't know it until now that was Jesus that let me do that. I went to Darrell Hines' office, and when I went in there, we came out in the hall, and one of the first things that came out of me, Now this man is real popular in Milwaukee. I mean,
Mhm.
loaded.
I'm familiar with
And I,
Daryl is known all over.
yeah.
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
And I said, Pastor Darrell, can I sit in your lap? He said, yeah.
Mhm.
Now, it's not too many people going to ask him that. Jesus unveiled himself, and he wants every one of us on this class today to deliberately crucify everybody you see and who you are in the habit of seeing yourself as physical. It's time for us to sit in Jesus' lap and allow him to be anybody in a suit. I'm trying to say a whole lot.
Well,
in
you're
one word.
saying it. You're
Okay,
saying it.
okay. You'll come to the place where you have to see him. And you know, I know people that pick the Bible up and pick the course up and read it constantly, a chapter every day. When you get into Christ, you will find out that he was all you were looking for, even in a book.
How about this? He was the one looking.
Thank you. He's the one looking.
He's the one.
He's the
looking.
one that's driving
He's
the
one
car,
looking.
and I'm sitting in his lap. I sit in Darrell Hines' lap, and he has not had that to happen to him, from what I know and understand since then.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not intimidated by these big boys, and they're not intimidated by me. I just look at them.
And there shouldn't be any intimidation.
I mean, I put my underwear on through my legs. I don't wear them on my
I
head.
don't know. Y'all think you wear them on your head sometimes.
Now, see, she nasty again. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Look, guys, we've been here over an hour. I can't take no more.
I'm laughing because I just had a visual. I had a visual.
She just come nasty. You know,
I said that because when I was a young girl, my grandparents for a brief period of time lived with us, and my great grandmother also was living with us, and she was in her 90s, and Grandma Judy had gotten dementia. And so she came out of her room one day. We were all in the kitchen, and her room was right next to the kitchen. She came out of her room one day. She was fully dressed, but she had her drawers on her head.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
And my dad said, Judy, what your drawers doing on your head? So that's, you made me think about it.
Yeah.
I said, yeah.
Wow.
Anyhow.
You know, for a long time, Pastor Norman, when I was little growing up, going down to on the 2 houses from me, I was a little guy, and I went down there to see Aunt Murray. She was connected.
It's gonna be a long story.
Yeah, no. And Aunt Murray told me, said, Clifton, you need to learn how to tie your shoe. Well, I didn't know how to tie a shoe. I went a long time with a string and drag, but I noticed my feet felt a little funny in them shoes. I had them on the wrong feet. It took me grown to find out what was my left hand, right hand, my left foot, and my right foot.
You didn't know if you were coming or going.
I was all messed up. I put my shoes on every day on the wrong feet because I felt that's what I didn't know which one to do.
Well, do you know now?
I don't know now.
You don't know yet?
I put my underwear on backwards one day and could understand why they don't fit
That's
right.
too much information.
And you know what? I found out that Walmart's out there got a sale on them.
No,
50,000 mile warranty. Got 50,000 mile warranty on them. And you get them, you can get them used or reconditioned.
We're not going to talk about that.
You get some of them out there got flat tires.
We're not going to talk about that.
Everybody need to know that.
No, they don't need to know that.
Well,
that's
okay.
not something. That's not a need to know.
Well, it is.
It's not a need to know.
Well, I woke up, Pastor. I put my shoes on the right foot.
Look, we have
hey,
left the station. I don't know.
Sunday Mofo tell their daughter, don't you run with a man that got crooked feet. If he got his shoes on the wrong feet, you better leave him alone. Wow. So you go both directions.
If he got his shoes on the wrong feet and he's got a rifle in his hand,
yeah,
you know he won't hit the target. He will not hit the target.
mm.
And we're being silly now for real. We're being silly. Linda says, Linda says, you guys, another awesome impromptu. Thank you. Hopefully all goes well with baby girl.
Hey,
Yeah, we think she'll be
yeah.
all right, hon.
Hey, look, I'm looking for somebody to put $1,000 in my mailbox.
And they haven't done it just because you said it.
Well, be still then. And see, I talked to her. She thinks she's my mama. And I am wonderfully blessed today. Watch this. To be in your presence as the presence of God, and her presence as she is looking at me like that. And I'm thankful that I have people like you guys out there that will want to listen to some of the foolishness that we talk.
And we are foolish right now.
Yeah,
we're
but that's
foolish.
okay.
And that is your distinction. That's why I love you guys.
That is our distinction.
Y'all know how to make things fun.
You're right. That is our distinction. That's what I put on there first thing this afternoon. I said your distinction is the magnet that's used to effectively fulfill your purpose.
Well, God told me one time, he told me to go to hell. I said, I don't want to go to your house.
Now, don't come up with a new story.
I said, I'm going to go to your house. I said, besides, why should I come to join you in your hell house and your hell party? You live in it. I don't want to live there. I don't want to live like that. So the next time you tell somebody, I think about that because you probably living already in hell. Hell's not a place.
We know that.
But it is the life in your mind. That
Mind. Yep.
Yeah.
Don't start another
I'm
story.
getting ready to, but you know.
Don't start another
And you know
story.
the next time.
Listen, guys. We'll see you next time.
Hey, y'all be safe out there.
Georgia.
Nichols.
Sunday at 10. So are you still coming on Sunday at 11?
Yep, 11 virtually, and then 2:00 in the afternoon at our new location.
All right.
Yep.
Very good. See you guys later. Bye.
All right.